Today's video is specifically for teachers with a bunch of cool marking tips that'll make your life a lot easier. What I like to do is to always zip the kids' files into one big folder and upload that to cloud storage so that I have a good backup. When I mark though, I do unzip it, but I prefer making it read only anyway, just so that I know I don't accidentally change anything. The most critical step in marking a practical paper is to do the paper yourself before you start marking. That way you can ensure that you have a good understanding of the mark sheet, and then you won't accidentally award marks for work that was done in the original data to begin with. If you're opening the kids' files, if you're lucky enough to have a mouse with a back button, I must say that's quite convenient. But if you don't have that, you can also use Alt and your arrows back and just move up and down to open the files easily and move back one step to go to the main folder. Let's have a look at what is available in Word. So the most important thing with all of these tips is basically to add everywhere you have to click to your quick access toolbar. So the first question for this file was to actually change the page to A4 size. So I'm going to go to the Layout tab and Size, and instead of going to click there every time, I'm going to right click and add this to my quick access toolbar so that when I open the file I can just click there to access it easily. Things like this drop cap that should have been done. Don't just check it visually, because the kids could possibly have just resized it by hand. It's also too much effort to go to right click drop cap, so I'm just going to add the drop cap options to my quick access toolbar. Then I've got it easily available. Now, it's not always necessary to even click there. If I open the file, I can also just use my Alt keys and the number that then appears on the quick access toolbar to access the specific option. So if I press Alt 5, for example, then in this case, it opens up my page sizes. The next important thing to do when you're working with Word is to use reveal formatting. If you press Shift F1, then you'll see it has so much information. I could actually have checked the page size over here. You'll see this section is not always expanded, but if you expand it, you can even check vertical alignment over here. Paper size, header distance, spacing before and after is also checked very easily over here. Have a look at what you can all check. You'll see even here, if I click in this paragraph, it actually shows me there is a yellow shading applied to this paragraph. The next tip is probably my most favorite, and that is to use Alt F9 to toggle field codes. If you have a look at this hyperlink, for example, if I hover over it, that would be the one way to check it, to check that it actually links to the hardware bookmark. But if I press Alt F9, then I can easily see what was done. If there was a screen tip or something that was supposed to be added as well, this would also show when I press Alt F9. You can even use Alt F9 for things like a table of contents. If I press Alt F9 now, it shows me that the type's style was used in compiling this table of contents. When the question includes something about page numbers, instead of actually going into the footer or header to check whether it was a field, that's not necessary. If you press Alt F9, you can see whether it's a page number that was inserted automatically or whether it was done by hand. Lots of times you require your show hide button to actually see some of the details of what's done. So for example, checking that there's a section break here or whatever. Control Shift and 8 also toggles your show hide button on or off. I prefer actually using it or adding it to my quick access toolbar because I use it just so often. Other ways to move between the document quite fast is to use a page up and page down to jump quite a large section at a time, or if you want to go straight back to the top, Control Home, Control End goes all the way to the end. And another nice tip is once you've followed a hyperlink, if you for example control click here, if you press Alt and the left arrow, then you can go back to the area where you actually initially clicked on that hyperlink. That even works for something like a table of contents. Lastly, for Word, you can also use F5 if there's a specific area or section or page that you need to go to. Once you've finished marking this question and you move on to another one, then you can just right-click Remove from Quick Access Toolbar all the items that you won't need and start from scratch. Okay, so in Excel, the same basic thing also applies. If there is somewhere where you have to go and click, then just add it to your Quick Access Toolbar. So the first question on this spreadsheet was to change a bunch of stuff regarding the printing, the scale, as well as titles. So instead of checking that by hand, you can just add the Page Setup dialog box to your Quick Access Toolbar. And then, say for example, you've just opened this up, I will press Alt 5 and then I can press Ctrl Tab to cycle between these different tabs, so then I can check that the rows have been repeated correctly and that the page size has been adjusted. If you need to move between the worksheets, you can press Ctrl and Page Down or Page Up to move back. Same thing for Excel as well. If you go to F5, you can go to a specific cell. So for example, R7 I know is the one cell that's far off where I need to check the sum if. If you need to mark formulas, if it's nice and easy formulas or short formulas, then Control and your tilde works quite nicely and you can see what they've done. But when it's longer questions like this one, that doesn't work so well. So for that one, I'd recommend F2. If you press F2, it enters into the cell and then you can have a look at the full formula. If you're, for example, busy working there and you've clicked around and it won't allow you and you don't know what's going on, just press Escape and it'll undo everything you've done. Alright, in Access, also, you can add a few items to your Quick Access Toolbar, not that many. If you have some kind of formatting that you'd like to check here, for the grade 11 papers especially, I usually add this to the Quick Access Toolbar so that I can easily check things like background color and so forth. Most of the stuff in Access, however, one marks from the design view. So instead of going right-click design view, you can actually click on any object and press Ctrl Enter to open it straight in design view. If you press F6, you can cycle between the different areas in the database, so then you can move down and open up the next object that you were interested in. If you'd like to switch to data sheet view or back to design view, you can press Ctrl and your full stop mark to go to the data sheet view and Ctrl and comma to move to your design view. If you want to quickly see what a child did for a formula or a function that's a bit long, if you press Shift and F2, then it opens up the zoom box for you so that you can see the full formula or the full criteria of whatever the thing is that they did. If you also want your text to be as nice and big as mine in your queries, unfortunately it doesn't apply to tables, or not the design view of tables anyway. I did that by going to File, Options, Data Sheet, and changing my default font size and weight. You can also change over there so that you can see clearly what you're doing. If you're marking something like a form, you can also easily activate your property sheet by pressing F4 so that you can then see what the kid did. If you press on device type, then you can easily see that they added the right items to the value list. If you were looking for the form itself, you can change it over there at the top, and then you can see that they used the right picture for the form and so forth. In HTML, there's not that much I can give you as a tip. The only thing I can recommend is to actually change the default HTML viewer by going to choose another app and making sure that your Notepad++ is selected to always open HTML files. And then the other thing I can recommend, I don't know about you, but it annoys me to no end that all of these tabs open every time I open another child's files. So to switch that off, you can go to Settings and Preferences, Backup, and remove this tick that was on by default. Now, if you close Notepad++ and you open it again, then it will only show you this current session. And that's it. I hope these tips make your life easier. Thank you for the teachers on the Cat and IT Facebook group that contributed to the list. Please comment down below if there's any tips that you'd like to share. You can find a list of these tips that's available for download in the file description.